Hi guys! So today I'm going to talk to you about composite charts. I am fighting a little bit my own south node here because it's in Virgo and it always makes me compulsively prepare for everything, but today I'm not prepared. I'm just gonna give you this video improvised. Let's see how good it is. We are all in a Mercury retrograde period right now for another 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks, and yeah, it makes us rewind a lot of our relationship behaviors and things that happen in our relationship, especially things we want to say. So I thought I would support that energy a little bit with giving you some insight on how to actually read the energy of a relationship. In astrology, to get information about relationships, you can do two things. You can do synastry charts or you can do composite charts. And they are different because the synastry chart compares two individuals. So we're like, here's this person and here's this person, and they're different. And where do they intersect? But composite charts, they actually create a whole new energy. They show you what happens when these two energies merge. So it's not two individuals anymore, it's like an actual merge. What new energy is created when these two people come together? And I think that's a very interesting thing to look at. So I have a few examples for you. The composite chart, when we actually merge two people, calculates the midpoints between each planet. So for example, one partner's sun and another partner's sun, they calculate where the midpoint is between these two suns. So let's say if this sun ends up in Cancer, it means that one person's sun could be in Aries and the other person's sun in Libra. So the midpoint would be in Cancer. So for every planet, it calculates the midpoint, and this chart is not realistic in a sense that this constellation of planets never actually happened in the sky. It is just a fictional chart that is supposed to give us information about the relationship. So let's dive right into the first one. I'm sorry for any background noises. This chart. It has all the same attributes like a normal natal chart, right? So houses are these divisions, like this pie pieces in a chart with numbers. And then we have the star constellations around the zodiac, so-called zodiac signs, and then in there we have the planets, right? These lines in here represent the relationships between the planets, so the so-called aspects and in which degree the planets stand to each other. Now, each house symbolizes a certain area of life, and in this relationship we can see in which areas of life these two people had intersections or could have had intersections. And we can see that we have got quite some planets in the 10th, in the 11th, in the 4th, and then also a little bit in the 3rd and in the 12th. But let's stick with 10, 11, and 4. Well, we will look most at the 10th and 11th house because these contain personal planets, okay? And the personal planets are a much stronger indicator for what's happening to people, whereas transpersonal planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn, or Pluto, also Chiron, they are more of indicators what happens collectively, because unless one partner is significantly younger or older than the other one, these planets are not going to be that different. You know, usually they are generational. So we're going to look mainly at the personal planets and then maybe just at the house placements of the transpersonal planets, okay? Always keep that in mind, that you cannot just read transpersonal planets with the same importance like you read personal planets, especially when it comes to relationship charts, no matter if it's synastry or composites, just because they are generational. And what that means is that if you, for example, have your Venus conjuncting somebody's Uranus in a synastry chart, And you're like, oh my God, this means that and that. I'm like, no, it means nothing, because you've got your Venus conjuncting with everybody's Uranus, not just that person's, but everybody's. So it's not anymore about the relationship you have personally with this specific individual. All right. Well, as you know, I am an evolutionary astrologer, so the first thing that is very important to me is the nodes of the moon, because the first thing I care about is where is this relationship coming from and what is it evolving towards. And everything else is just filling in that story, but that's the main story of the chart for me. So if we look at this relationship here, we can see that the south node is in Leo. And we can see that there's a lot of other planets in Leo too. Not exactly conjunct, they are quite distant, but still, as long as it's in the same sign, my experience says it counts. What does it count for? It counts for past lives, because the south node symbolizes the past lives. And if we have planets with the south node here, it means that this couple brings in a lot of memories from past lives. Here we've got 3 planets with the south node in the same sign. I would say these people lived 3 lives together. Mercury, one of them, they could have been friends or siblings. Venus, one of them, they were lovers. Moon, one of them, they were family members. Could be mother and son. Could be, yeah, so also grandfather and, grandchild. So 3 lives together is a lot of karma. So in lives, things happen. So these people have been doing things to each other in those past lives that, excuse my blue fingers, another thing I didn't fix. Well, that's when you paint your hair blue. So now if we want to find out what karma they carry, we would need to look at the aspects of these planets and see what are they making aspects to. In this case, we can see that the Venus is making a square to Pluto, and so is the moon, and so is especially the south node, like a very tight square to Pluto. Pluto symbolizes our karmic journey as well. And when there is a square between the nodes and Pluto, it tells me that there has been some like bad karma in the past, and that in this life they came to resolve it. So squaring Pluto tells me there has been feelings of betrayal, feelings of power, like abuse, feelings of abuse in general. Yeah. So in this couple, there has been a lot of negative things happening in all of the constellations they have been in. Also, death could have been involved, that in some lives they lost each other to death. A lot of pain, basically, because Pluto carries the energy of the underworld, of the scorpionic, archetype. Okay, so they don't have a great start. They don't know that, because when people who have a lot of karma meet, they actually feel like very comfortable at the beginning. They feel like, it's love at first sight, or they're soulmates, or they're magnetically drawn to each other. And so will these people. I would argue to say that maybe they wouldn't even be each other's types when they see each other, but still there's going to be such a strong attraction that they will just be magnetically pulled to resolve whatever they have to resolve together. So they will meet each other where? Well, 11th house. 11th house is usually through friends, and it will be like, 11th house, the internet, of course. 11th house is also technology and everything futuristic, so these guys could actually have met on the internet or through friend circles, but through basically networking. Because Mercury is there as well, it's communication. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's internet or friends, because it's in Leo. I would rather say it's friends, because Leo is more about parties and fun and going out. If it was in Aquarius, I would be like, okay, it's 100% on the internet. Or if it was another air sign in the 11th house, I would also say the internet. But since it's Leo, I would say, okay, more probably they met through friends. And there was this instant magnetic pull. So now we're starting to construct a story here. What's happening? Okay, they met through friends, they felt a magnetic pull. There's a lot of karma to resolve because of the square of the nodes to Pluto. If the nodes make a square to anything, it's always karma to resolve, okay? So the South Node in the 11th house tells me that they start out as friends as well. Or if they met on the internet, they start out just talking on the internet, not really meeting in person. And the North Node is in the 5th house, so they are supposed to learn how to become better lovers. But there is a twist to this because the North Node is in the 5th house, but it is in Aquarius, which is the sign of the 11th house. And the South Node is in the 11th house, but it is in Leo, which is the sign of the 5th house. So we have an inverted situation here. The nodes basically go from Leo to Aquarius and from Aquarius to Leo. So they go both ways, which tells me these guys are trying to balance out these energies of like being friends and appreciating each other as people and like being extremely passionate, which is like the 5th house, like because the 5th house is all about romance and passion and fun and gambling and risk taking. So they will be very torn between being rational and like throwing it all away and like running away with each other and not giving a damn about anything else in the world. And they also came to balance out this energy. The karma that they came to resolve, Pluto in the 3rd house, means there's been some verbal abuse or betrayal through words. Somebody lied or somebody gave away a secret from the other one. That's all 3rd house stuff, right? And they also have Mars in the 3rd house, which means even in this life, they will not be able to communicate peacefully. Like their communication will be very aggressive, very brutal. They will fight and they will insult each other. They will not be able to keep their calm. This is going to be a very hurtful communication and yeah, resolution of the case. Quite painful. And they above all have the moon in the 12th house, which means there is a spiritual connection underneath it all. Although there is all of this, yeah, being torn apart between like the passion and like the tranquility and the logistics and the verbal aggression and all this karma to resolve, they do feel like they have a very deep spiritual connection with each other. The North Node, which signifies the future, is empty though. I mean, it's in the 5th house, but it has no planets there, which would make me assume that these guys are not going to make it. They will not stay together. It's very hard to transcend a lot of karma anyways, but if additionally there is nothing on the North Node to indicate that there is a future together, that there's a purpose to stay together, people usually don't make it. And especially in this case, because of the Mars in the 3rd house and Chiron conjuncting the Sun, I feel like they're going to hurt each other a lot because the Sun symbolizes our personality. Chiron is a wound, so these people are literally wounding each other's personality. They're making each other doubt who they are and if they are right. And they talk kind of aggressively to each other, so there's a lot of verbal aggression. So it looks like things that will not be easily overcome in this relationship. Okay, let's continue with the next example. So is this different? Let's see what's going on here. What do we look at first? Right, the nodes. So here we have a situation where the nodes go from the 1st house to the 7th house, from the house of personality, of me, of ego, to the house of relationship. So these guys, their purpose together is to learn how to do relationship. And which sign is it? It's in Pisces. So they are supposed to learn what unconditional love is together. They are supposed to forgive each other, to let go of grief, to reach a level of transcendental, spiritual, like unconditional, universal love together. They met each other to learn how to be partners, and both of them don't know how to do it very well. If we keep on going, is there any squares or nodes? That's what's really important to us. Nope. Okay, so at least no immense karma to resolve. We have the South Node, which indicates the past, squaring Lilith, which tells me there has been something about sexual attraction or like the wild, sexuality that they shared in a past life. but there's no squares. It doesn't look like there's been major pain caused to anybody, but they know each other a little bit on that sexual level, or maybe just level of, Lilith is just about rebellion, about rawness, about breaking out of things and being yourself. So that's something that they shared in the past, in whichever context. Unrelated to that, the most strong house in this chart is definitely here, the 8th house, the house of sexuality and how do you say it? Osmosis. And the house of sexuality and osmosis. So these guys have amazing sex because it's all of their personal planets are in the 8th house. They have, and it's in Aries, in the fire sign. So this is like stellar sex. But also like merging. So they are literally merging into one person. It's their osmosis is inevitable. When they meet, they merge. And the 8th house is also about transformation. So they will transform together. They will transform a lot of shadows, a lot of darkness together. Because the 8th house is about our shadows. It's about death, about all the things we don't want to see. So these guys are really working hard. But there's always the amazing sex to reward them. Then we have a moon in Libra, which is really good because the moon in Libra is a relationship moon. So it again amplifies the ability of this couple to compromise and to think for two, to be like a partner. And last but not least, we have the Jupiter on the 10th house. So this couple brings each other up. This is like the midheaven. So they together, they rise. They bring success to each other. They bring a lot of money and fortune to each other. Like they rise together. And yeah, we've got some transcendental planets in the 5th house, house of romance. What is missing a little bit in this couple is the earth or something like grounding. So there's a lot of fire, there's air. Yeah, and that's kind of the main thing. So we're missing a bit of the grounding energy. So there might be a lot of passion, a lot of wanting, a lot of talking, because also here there's Pluto in the 3rd house, which tells me that there's transformational conversations. But there is not much doing, okay? So yeah, they might want more and talk more than they do, but they in general have a good constellation together, which doesn't show any karmic problems. The North Node also doesn't have any planets conjunct to it, which would be a very strong indicator that they're supposed to stick together, which could mean that once they have learned their lesson of sharing unconditional love with each other, they might dissolve, but it might also take them a lifetime to learn this lesson. So we don't know. But even if they dissolve, this passion between them is hard to dissolve, and they will definitely, this Jupiter in the midheaven is something that they will carry forward as a good memory of what they achieved together in the business world in terms of building a life. Okay, so I hope that gave you at least a little insight of how you can read composite charts, and I hope it helps you to figure out a little bit more about you and your partner. Thanks for watching and see you next time.